El mundo cambió. Se rompieron los esquemas y se anularon las fronteras.
Más que nunca necesitamos líderes que transformen la educación. Líderes que lleven al equipo a alcanzar su máximo potencial, innovando y creando nuevas propuestas.
Profesionistas apasionados por cambiar sus vidas, a través de los 2 idiomas de mayor impacto en el mundo y la trascendencia de las culturas.
Profesores que permitan que más mexicanos tengan oportunidades a nivel global.
Necesitamos que más mexicanos hagan historia, explorando el mundo y viviendo nuevas aventuras.
Nuestros jóvenes merecen oportunidades globales.
Por todo eso,
nos transformamos y juntos
escribiremos una nueva historia.
Okie dokie. Okay, so welcome everyone. So great to see different people from different places. I'm just going to say hi to Carlos because Carlos is trying to open his camera and the microphone, Carlos. So Carlos, don't worry, it's a webinar. So, we'll be doing all of the tiring talking and, we'll have you interact in different ways, through polls and the chat box in this case, right? So there's nothing wrong with your computer, Carlos, right? Because, you seem to be thinking that, from the chat box. So anyway, so welcome everyone. So hope you're having a great afternoon as usual. We're running this webinar today, lovely Thursday of this month, June. We're very rapidly approaching the end of our webinar series that we started at the start, right at the beginning of the pandemic to help our International House University or International House University programs now cope with this COVID-19 pandemic, the current situation that's been going on for quite some time now. So welcome guys. Today we're going to be joined by Andrew Watson. Andrew is, so hello Andrew, hi, how are you doing today, Andrew?
Great to be with you.
Great, fantastic. Thank you for joining us today, Andrew. So a little bit about Andrew. So Andrew is going to be helping us today with what we think is quite an interesting topic that everybody here will benefit from, which is, online teaching, but, with the focus on YL, with a focus on young learners, because we know that quite a lot of you, are currently teaching young learners. And although now maybe some states in the country are going green with the COVID-19 traffic light, this is something that, and again, might be changing. People coming back to face-to-face teaching, going back to online teaching, or a hybrid, So this is something that will definitely be super helpful. Andrew is a trainer or was a trainer on the former ISIL course that you might remember, by the University of Cambridge, Cambridge Assessment English, and ISIL tutor. He's also a self-tutor, and he is specialized in precisely young learners, right? So, we're very lucky to have him here today. And as usual, guys, Andrew is going to help us with some ideas, with some practical resources. And remember that there is a Q&A, a questions and answers section right at the bottom, right at the bottom, there is a bar, and then you'll find Q&As. If there is anything that maybe you don't get to ask Andrew during the session, but or you would like to wait, or you maybe you want to keep your question there for Andrew to answer that at the end of the session, just go there to the Q&A section and pose your questions. However, I reckon Andrew is going to have you participate during the webinar through some polls. So also, make sure that you participate in those polls, and then ask any questions you might have, right? And then we're going to come back to those questions at the end. All right. So thank you, and Andrew. So thank you for being here today. And I'm just going to step back, let you do your magic, and the floor is yours. Okay.
Great. Let's get started. There we go. There we go. So some of you have been teaching children online for a while now, I guess. And some of the teachers I've been hearing from have been telling me about some of the challenges you've been facing. Sorry, I'm having problems loading this.
Is everything okay, Andrew? Do you need any help?
It's just my my PowerPoint is not loading.
Shall you send it to me, and then we just quickly upload it to a Google Drive so that you can work with the Google Drive?
Hmm. Let me just switch my video off, see if that works. My video. Oh, no.
Hello, Andrew. Is everything okay, or can I step in and help?
Terribly sorry about that. Yeah. So you can all see this, right?
Yeah, all good now. Yeah, it works. Fantastic.
So as I was saying, some of you will have been teaching online for some time now, and I've been hearing teachers telling me about some of the challenges. And in the session, I'd like to offer some solutions and to hopefully make the online experience better for you and for your students. So I'll highlight some fun online activities you can use to help children to develop English skills, and to show you some free resources available on the Cambridge English website. Now, don't worry, you won't have to copy the links down. They'll be on a handout at the end, right? So it's not all listening to me. So I'd like to be hearing from you. And one way we'll be doing this is through polls. So please, I'd like to know from these 6 options, out of these 6 options, which of these have you found to be the biggest challenge when teaching children online? So activities take longer to prepare and teach, students get distracted, parents are too involved or not involved enough, I talk too much or students don't talk enough, I'm not sure how to differentiate, and giving instructions is more difficult. So let's get this poll started. Let's launch the poll. Can you please answer the poll? Ah, interesting. So the highest one is so far is students getting distracted, followed by parents too involved or not enough, and number 4 is I talk too much, and activities take longer to prepare and teach in joint 3rd place. Thanks. Now, hopefully there'll be something something for everyone in this webinar. I'm going to go through these 6 issues one by one and give some examples and solutions to try to meet them. So first thing is that activities take longer to prepare and teach. So what we can do is look at what exists already and adapt those. And where can you get them from, I hear you ask? Well, there's lots of free stuff to download on the Cambridge English website. There are complete lesson plans of around 45 minutes and they last up to 1 hour. And there are optional activities for online teaching. They have suggestions for differentiation, and that's something we'll come back to later. Many of these lesson plans were originally designed to help teachers prepare students for Cambridge Young Learner exams like starters, movers, and flyers, but they can easily be adapted for a general English lesson. And this one on the right, you can see here is to practice listening, writing, and vocabulary. And the lesson stages are there with online options on the right. You can be using them now online and then adapt them when we go back to face-to-face classes as well. Of course, there are links to lots of useful resources. Now, that's the preparation side. Now the actual teaching. Somewhere the time can go in online teaching is in feedback. I'm sure you found that. It might be that in your face-to-face class, you had a good system and you were good at nominating from different groups. You give a handout with answers and feedback was done very quickly, but somehow in that online class, it just seems to go. So how can we save time? Well, I've got a couple of suggestions. The first is to prepare it beforehand. If you're using one of these learning plans, lesson plans that I mentioned, you've got the feedback and the answers there on the lesson plan, and you can just copy and paste the answers and then just share your screen. It's not that you have to do the activities yourself like you do with some materials. The answers are there, right? You could share the answers and feedback in chat so that students can see and check for themselves. You can annotate, or that means write notes on the question sheet. So if you're using a program where you can annotate, you can try Google Slides for that. You can write on the screen, so you can just show the fill in the gaps activity as you go through the answers, or you can get the students to do that. They love using Annotate, I find. And that's something you can do to get them usefully involved in sharing answers together. There's a link to how to use Google Slides in the handout that I'll provide you at the end. So it's time efficient. It encourages self-checking, autonomy, and responsibility when you get them to annotate in particular. Look, here is Google Slides. I've pasted in my activity, and we went through, we checked some of the answers, and then I got them to write in the answers, type them in themselves. Going on with your students is to use a mini whiteboard. Now, these can be fancy ones you can use with a whiteboard marker, or they can be a piece of A4 paper, put in a plastic sleeve, if your kids' parents have got one of them, and they can write on this whiteboard like this, and then wipe it clean. Well, what do we do with it? Well, we train kids to write answers, simple answers, really clearly and really big on their mini whiteboards, and then they can hold it up to the camera and you can check their answers. Why is this good? Well, it's a quick way of checking understanding and spelling. If everyone is doing it, no one is put on the spot, and it's a quick way for you as the teacher to monitor their progress. And it gives an overall picture of the class. All right. So here's an example. It was a listening activity. What's the name of the kid's horse? They had to answer Fred. How old is kid's horse? He's 4 years old. So if activities are taking longer to prepare, we can adapt free lesson plans. If activities take longer to teach, we should select time-efficient feedback methods. So what about you? Do you have a time-saving tip for teaching online? Could you please share it with the other participants, please, in the chat? So do you have a time-saving tip for teaching online? Don't worry if you can't think of anything right now, just think about it slowly. Do you have a time-saving tip for teaching online? Are you having problems using the chat? Can't see anything. All right, well, maybe we can come back to that later if someone has any ideas. Now let's move on to our second issue. Now, 50% of you said that kids are getting distracted in online lessons, right? Maybe they're in their bedroom with their toys, there's noise, right? Their siblings are there. Lots of things to get distracted by, right? Some of them have difficulty focusing on the screen as well. So what can you do? Here's one idea. Give them a physical task, changing the pace of the lesson. and bringing them back to you. It's something you might do in a face-to-face class, of course. If you notice learners are getting distracted, you give them something physical, especially the little ones, and it helps to get rid of some of this excess energy. Here are some things you could do. So show me something that's on your desk. Show me something that's on your desk. Tell me what it is. Right? Hold up something that is blue. Show me something that is blue to check as a way to check colors. You can get them to stand up, hands up, or clap. Clap if is a way to check answers or get feedback. Now, this way of checking understanding is called total physical response. Learners show that they understand rather than having to produce language. You can also have other variants like hold up a pen for yes, right? On a razor for no. It's a great way to peer check, and it's fun, and it's a break from the screen because let's face it, many of us spend quite a lot of time in front of the screen. Something physical is always fun. So here's an example. It involves movement. This is something they can do just by holding things up. This is from Cambridge on the lesson plans that I pointed out to you earlier. A2 Flyers, Reading and Writing Part 4. You can download it for free. There's a little review of prepositions, and then you can get them to practice with a fun activity, get them to make little flashcards, make them a bit bigger, I guess, than this. In, at, on. You tell them the time phrase and they hold up the right flashcard. Hopefully you get an idea who has got it right. So you say Monday, they go on Monday. Well done. 1 o'clock at 1 o'clock. So that's hold up something. So when children get distracted, we need to grab their attention to maintain their engagement. Do you have a suggestion for when children get distracted? Can you please share it with the other participants in the chat? Any suggestions for when children get distracted? Listenings are very useful. Catch their attention, yes. Arturo, thank you, Carlos. Arturo says showing short videos, yes, short interesting videos. Right, so we can, as some of you mentioned, grab their attention with a song or a story. We can sing the song together. We can watch the animation. We can add movement if you like. And so it brings the focus back, brings everyone together. We can practice vocabulary, and the physical movement revives the class. Here's one I like. Again, through the Sing and Learn selection for Cambridge at the zoo. It's a particularly good one. And I'll give you the link to that collection in the handout. Yvonne says we can play categories with children. Yeah, they might use their chat box to write, for example, 5 categories with a specific letter, yes, from the alphabet. Right? Yes, very good for vocabulary practice. Now we can also, you may not have thought of this, grab attention with an animation or avatar. Now the advantage of this is that students watch or listen to someone else talking who's not the teacher. You can create and animate your own avatar on Voki.com. It's for free. So this one I've taken from the website Voki. There's a policeman here. He can talk about road safety. Voki's got a huge choice of avatars, people and children of all ages, animals, and you can add a voice to the avatar, or you can put your own voice on there. You can choose from a number of different voices, and this allows creativity, something different, something that kids haven't done before, personalization. So it can be your ideas, or it can be the students' ideas, talking about their own lives. It encourages shy students to participate. You can have a class avatar, or they can make their own. Yeah? Another way to grab students' attention is with a game, and you all said this. This is from the lesson plans, right? It's called Monkey Puzzle. You'll need to be in charge of running the game, and it can be used for a group competition, or you can share your screen. You get students in groups 1, 2, 3, 4. You are group 1. Okay, group 1, what do you think the answer is? And you click on the answer according to what they think the answer is. Or you can get them to click on the screen with annotate. They show you where they want you to press that button. So they all put their stamps in that area. If there's sound, even better. If there's animation, wonderful. It brings the focus back. It's engaging language practice. Healthy competition. All right, Monkey Puzzle. It's a good one to explore. The link, of course, is in the handout at the end. So when children get distracted, we can give them a physical task, or we can grab their attention with an animation, an avatar, or a game. That way we keep their engagement. So Issue 3 is a delicate area because it involves parents, right? Now, parents, we all know they have the best of intentions, but maybe they're too overbearing, or perhaps they're afraid to do the wrong thing, right? So I'd like you to answer this poll. Your parents, are they involved not enough, just right, or too much? So let's get the next poll up then. Parental involvement. Watch poll. There we go. Can you please answer this? Huh. I'll give you about 20 seconds more. We'll close the poll. All right, so most of you said not enough. 50%, interesting. So you'd like them to be involved in more in your classes, but how? And this is the issue, isn't it? Sometimes we say, oh, no, they're not involved enough, but how do we involve them more? So what can we offer them? Well, if we get this right, we can give them good advice. And they can be very supportive. So we can provide them with advice. Now, there's a top 10 tips for parents helping their kids to learn online. You could share that with parents. And there's also a support pack for parents in different languages. Now, this is all, again, on the Cambridge website, and you'll have the link to this at the end on the handout. But just for now, what we need to do is perhaps recycle activities from class that they can do at home. The parents and the children can play together. The idea is that it reinforces learning. We're recycling vocabulary, structures, consolidating language and skills. Children are supportive, and also that the parents feel involved, useful, and know what their children are learning. All right, so that's the area of the Cambridge website where you can find this material. Very useful it is too. So to sum up, if parents are not involved enough or are getting too involved, we can advise them on how to help and provide them with activities to do with their children. So how do you, or how would you help parents to support their children in online learning? Could you please type this in the chat? Type your ideas. Carlos says, yeah, I think it's hard because most of them are working while children are in the class. But don't you find that, like, some advice can be useful? Maybe sometimes they fear it's something that they don't address themselves. Sometimes my wife accuses me of not being involved in my son's education enough. Yeah. And sometimes we need to push them. Yeah. Well, involve them in some activities. What type of activities? Yeah, so I think most of us agree that this is desirable, but I think we need to do a little bit more research on what activities are suitable. So Cambridge English Parents and Children is very useful to that. Just because of time, I'm going to move on to issue 4. This is, I find myself talking too much and the students don't talk enough. In this case, we probably need to use pair work or group work more, right? Breakout groups are great to this end if they can be safely monitored. But we can also have whole class activities when students are working in groups or in open pairs. Open pairs is where a pair of students maybe demonstrates an activity in front of the class, and then the students, the rest of the class gets on with the activity, speaking activity often. So for speaking activities in particular, they need thinking and planning time. And some teachers I find may resist, but this may be because they don't know how to set up speaking activities. So we need to demonstrate and let then the students alone. We need a clear model. We need to provide the language needed for the task. And give the students time to think and plan what they're going to say. Hopefully then the students feel empowered. The teacher can sit back and observe. There's less teacher talk, more student talk, and hopefully more language practice. So, issue 4. Now, all classes are mixed ability. We need to add challenge or support. That way we can achieve differentiated learning. And that's identifying and addressing the different needs, interests, and abilities of all learners to give them the best chance of achieving their learning goals. Now, the lesson plans we mentioned earlier include some suggestions, and where it says to add challenge or for extra support. So we can select the level of challenge or support appropriate for your class, offer some choice in which activities they do. We can choose to share different versions of the same activity online, for example, by private message. Send the different version to students in the group that you think either stronger or weaker. That way, everyone achieves. Now, here's an example. Here's how we could go about differentiating a sopa de letras activity, word search, typically found in the workbook or activity book of your coursebook package. For adding challenge, we could remove the word list, get the students to create their own word search. For added support, we can provide a word list so they find the words and tick them off. They could do it in pairs or groups. Added support, provide more examples. You or a student can circle the first letter. And in the online environment, we can offer choice. We can share different versions with different students. Students use a template or an app and share their screen using breakout rooms or using Annotate. Now, issue 6, giving instructions is more difficult. How would you deal with difficulties in giving instructions? This wasn't regarded as an issue by many of us in our poll at the beginning. However, as a teacher trainer, I often find teachers struggling with giving instructions online. Please share in the chat some of your ideas for managing difficulties in giving instructions. Carlos says, yeah, tell them orally and also write them in his chat. That's very good. Yeah. Simple and very short, says Arturo. Concrete and clear, says Yvonne. Provide a demo and check understanding using ICQs. Sounds like Yvonne has experience in this area. So here are 7 tips for giving instructions online that I consider pretty much essential. Don't rely on audio only. As Carlos suggested. Prepare the instructions beforehand. Yeah. Give a demonstration. That echoes what Yvonne said. Share your screen or copy the instructions to the chat. Yeah. If you're using breakout rooms, what can you do there? Ensure the students have a copy of the task or instructions. Send reminders to breakout rooms during the task. Yes. Because very often you send them to breakout rooms and they've all instantly forgotten what they're supposed to be doing. And one thing I like to do for my speaking activities is to make a screencast or a video of a speaking task that I want them to perform. and maybe then set them a couple of comprehension questions, followed by a second viewing of the video in which they identify some useful expressions that help the students to carry out the task. So I find video demonstrations very useful online. All right, so in conclusion, online English language classes can be highly rewarding for teachers, children, and their parents if we keep these guidelines in mind. So, time. So we've got free lesson plans, time efficient feedback, using copy and paste, mini whiteboards, coping with distractions. We do physical tasks. We can grab their attention with games, avatars, singing and dancing. For parents, we advise them first, but also give them activities to do with their children. There's talking time. We demonstrate, we let students lead the activities. We can use breakout rooms and whole class for that. For differentiation, we need to add challenge or sometimes add support. And instructions: prepare, demonstrate, provide visuals, we copy and share. There's reminders and there's screencasts. Now for the handout, I'll share that with you. Coming into chat now is our handout. There we go. Now, I'm great. It's nearly 5:30. I think Orlando wants to say a few words to you before we go for questions and answers with me.
Fantastic. Awesome. Fantastic.
Sorry about the snaffles at the beginning, but
no, that's absolutely fine. So thank you very much, Andrew. So guys, so now we've come to the end to this webinar today. I hope that you found the content and the information that Andrew shared with you useful moving forward, to how, on ideas on how you can approach your online teaching with young learners in the future. And before you go, remember that you've got any final questions or any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us, or any final questions that you'd like to ask Andrew. You could go to the chat or to the Q&A section and post your question, so that Andrew can then come back and answer those. But in the meantime, thank you for your feedback, Yvonne, by the way. Thank you for your encouraging words in the chat box. So in the meantime, remember that we always take feedback very seriously. So, we would like to receive your feedback on this webinar, right? Remember that we're consistently looking for new things, new ideas, new topics that we should try and do, and different things that we should try and give you further information on as part of the webinar series. So if you could just please spend a couple of minutes answering this survey. You know, this is part of the quality survey of the webinars. It just takes 5 minutes, like literally 5 minutes or even less than that. You know, you've got a couple of questions here. How would you rate the webinar today? And then right at the end, you know, the usual question, what would you like to explore in future webinars, right? So, and remember that this is all the useful information that we are going to be using, you know, so that we could put the next series of webinars for next year, for 2021, 2022 together, right? So this webinar series is going to stop. Well, it's going to finish, like season 1 is going to finish in summer, and then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to launch the second season, you know, towards the end of this year. So that's why it's very important to get your feedback, right? And also before you go, another kind of reminder, remember that, you know, we have more webinars coming soon. So I'm just going to send the link again here in the chat box. There we go. That's a link to our International House University Media Room. And if you keep scrolling down, you know, you click here, read more academic webinars, and you're going to find our timetable, our calendar. We have one more coming soon, CLIL. That's going to take place on June the 24th. So basically how to take Clean Online, how to transfer that to the online world. And that will nicely coincide with the launch of our own CLIL program. We're going to be launching a new diploma, a new program on CLIL. So we'll be talking about how to take Clean Online and also launching our own program, so that if there are any people here interested in that, you can then ask any questions on that matter. And that's the penultimate webinar, because we're going to be finishing our series, like I said, in the summer with grading tasks, lower order to higher order thinking task, right? And that'll be everything for this first season, right? So again, we appreciate your feedback. So if you could just spend a couple of minutes in the forum, you know, giving us your feedback. And I think that's pretty much everything I needed to say, Andrew. I don't know if there's any other questions from the floor. We don't see any questions in the questions and answer bar, the section, nor anything in the chat box. Any other questions? Or do you think that will be it, Andrew? What do you think?
Oh, we just got one from Carlos. How can we deal with those students who don't want to speak at all?
Yeah. So how will you deal with that, Andrew?
Yeah, I think possibly we need to talk to their parents, don't we? And get them to, that could be the first. Well, do we want to involve the parents straight away though? Yeah. I think maybe you need to try to, with a few like pair work activities, and sometimes in the more anonymous environment of the breakout rooms, that's when they can come out of their shells a little bit, because it could be that they're just very shy and very self-conscious about speaking English. You know, it's very much age dependent as well, isn't it? I don't know. Let's ask you,
and
Carlos.
Then I also, you know, there's another question in the chat that probably has something to do with that, because Mariana is asking, like, what can I do if I have two students with what do you mean, Mariana? With like different levels, I guess that's, or with like a lower level than the others in the class, and you know that makes them feel insecure, and therefore they don't participate, right? So that has to do with lower levels in the same class. So what would you say, Andrew? What's your suggestion?
Well, partly it could be is differentiation. So you're making the tasks easier for them to answer. So don't ask too many open-ended questions in practice activities. Just make them feel that they can answer something, even if they can't use much language to do it. You can perhaps experiment with TPR type activities, because they involve more receptive skills, don't they? They involve more listening. So when they respond, when they're trying to give an answer, you don't expect them to use much language. You can get them to hold up a pen for yes, or an eraser for no. Yeah. So yeah, different ways to approach it. I think we've kind of covered them in a broad brush way in today's webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. And that has to do with, like, like you're saying, Andrew, that has to do with teaching mixability classes, Mariana. And this has to do with, like, finding the right balance, on how to challenge your learners to their level, right? Like I always find, let me see if I can find the image of mix. Let me just see if I can find it online, because I've seen this image. It's probably a meme or something, Mariana, but like basically it's a cartoon, and the cartoon is like several animals are being assessed in exactly the same way, and then like the judge is saying, or something like that, whoever is assessing them is saying, so that the assessment process is valid, everybody's going to be assessed, like with the same task, or like under the same circumstances. And then the task is, okay, off you go and climb the tree. And you have a fish, you have a giraffe, you have a monkey, you have an elephant. And that's always funny, because I just found it, and I'm going to screen share so that you can see what I mean, because I always find this such a hilarious picture. This is a cartoon, right? So that this is all the same.
Oh,
every time the tree, and then you have a fish, a penguin, an elephant, and actually it's not fair, right? So what you're referring, Mariana, is you're referring to mixability classes, like Andrew was saying. And I think, the point being here is that we need to use different activities, right? You're saying they still keep shy. Yeah, well, it also depends on how you pair them up, right? And how you have them work together. So if you have an elephant with a penguin, I don't see much conversation taking place there, right? But if you pair up maybe 2 elephants, and then 2 penguins, and then 2 monkeys, maybe it's going to be the shy learners that you'll be able to devote more time to, that you'll be able to give a different kind of task to, and you'll be able to support a bit more, right? So the whole idea of like pairing stronger learners with weaker learners, this is one of those situations when you want to try things differently, and you maybe want to try pairing people with the same personality together, people with the same different kind of approach or abilities together, so that then you can cater to their differentiated needs. Right, so not everybody likes what they've been given. Okay, I'm going to give you different things, right? Different tasks, different support, different scaffolding, right? It's kind of like hosting a dinner for different kinds of guests, and then every single guest gets a different kind of dessert, right? All right.
Yeah. So, definitely, Orlando. I completely agree with that, and. Yeah, I mean, partly it's classroom management. Partly it's considering the developmental level of the students as well, isn't it? Because there is still this widely held belief, and I agree with it, that children in particular go through a kind of a silent period when they're listening a lot. Yeah. So one of the advantages of TPR, for example, is that you can get them to respond physically without actually having to use much language. So you could consider that. Also, you could consider the complexity of the language you're using in the classroom. Have you heard of Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive skills? And you've got to think about the questions you're asking, so that a question about, you know, describing a picture is a lot easier to answer than a question about evaluating something. Yeah. So think about the complexity of the language we're using, and because sometimes that can affect the student's willingness to participate.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right. Okay, so I think those are pretty much all the questions that we had from the floor, from the audience, Andrew. So I would like to thank you for your time. So thank you for your time today, Andrew. And I don't know if you say any final words to the audience, Andrew, or anything.
No, I would just make the most of all this useful stuff that's online. Yeah. And I mean, I need to make more use of it myself, to be honest. Get out so much, but I'd like to do that. So
absolutely. So yeah, thank you very much for you. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Andrew, I interrupted you.
No. Oh, no, the stuff with the parents as well, I think, is really useful as well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All righty. So thank you very much for your time, Andrew. So everyone, thank you for connecting live online, you know, as usual now, you know, twice every month. You know, you've been very loyal to the course. So thank you, everyone. And remember, you know, we have one more webinar this month. Stay tuned, and may you have a great weekend. Happy next week, and then see you till next time. All right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Andrew, and goodbye. All righty. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye.